This episode of Legendary is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Hi, I'm Coltrane.
And I'm Pat Crane.
And we are here today to talk to you about an ongoing issue.
It's an issue that affects most of us, especially warlocks.
It's a condition called IFOWIS-PTRN. I freak out when I see PTR notes.
That's right, Colt, and it affects 1 in 5 Azerothians.
That's a pretty scary statistic, Pat. Almost as scary as that time I thought Blizzard was removing Blink for mages.
Ha! That's right. You really freaked out there. Like, really freaked out.
I wet 'ems, Pat. And I have the stain to prove it.
A badge of honor.
We at the Let's Not Freak Out About the PTR Society are looking to help you.
Bring us your tired, your poor, your tanks upset about vengeance.
We can provide the support and care you need to move on from those patch notes and get on with your life.
This is Timmy. He was a warlock upset about the removal of Kil'jaeden's cunning. And, well, let's let him tell the story.
I was first upset when I read the patch notes. Now, thanks to the LNFOAT-PTRS, I no longer want to burn my loins with green fire and poop everywhere.
Thank you, Timmy.
And thank you for not pooping.
If you have a loved one who may be suffering or find yourself with these symptoms, please call us.
1-800-CALM-THE-F-DOWN. Operators are standing by.
Call today. I'm not just a founder, but a member as well.
Right, like when you read Blizzard was removing the classic druid tree form.
Oh, Coltrane, you just had to bring this up now, didn't you?
Call 1-800-CALM-THE-F-DOWN. That's 1-800-CALM-THE-F-DOWN. Or visit your nearest LNFAOT-PTRS center today.
Burn with fire and poop everywhere!
Game Breaker TV.
Big Bong! What's up, everybody? Welcome to Legendary episode, 139 for whatever today is. I don't even freaking know anymore. All right, so what's going on today's show? Patch 5.4 is dropping in just under 2 weeks. Melee and range remain unequal, and there are just too many abilities. Are there? All that and more. But first, joining us from WoW Insider Zam and right here on GameBreaker.tv from behind a glass of Cab Sav. It's Olivia D. Grace.
I'm literally going to hide behind it. I'm just staying behind this for the entire show.
That's a nice pour.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad at all.
And with us again, back behind a beer like he's supposed to be, host of Convert to Raid, Mr. Pat Crane.
I'll hide too. I will hide as well. So, no, I won't.
And from Game Breakers Waypoint, both World of Warcraft Edition and League of Legends Edition, it's Mike Shaffnet. What are you behind?
CALMTHEFDON L2 spell.
Either way.
I think that's a little too many numbers.
Just a
Hey,
few.
it could be international.
That's right.
It could be what I've got to dial from the UK.
It's the new
Okay.
funky numbers. It's the number
Gotcha.
system. Yeah, it's.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
We don't want people to, burn things down or poop everywhere. So
You don't. You gotta provide that
Yeah,
service.
that's the main thing.
it's very
You wouldn't want
important.
that. You
No,
wouldn't want that.
no.
Wow,
Especially
first up
the
this
pooping.
week. Have you guys seen this 5.4 trailer?
Yeah.
Talk about pooping in your pants. Seriously, what is it not like completely epic? Holy crap. Blizzard just
Yeah.
stepping up their game 10 years later. Just keeps
Makes
getting
me happy
better
that-
and better.
I wonder. I bet they did it for the raid, but I almost wonder if this is why they put so much effort into the Garrosh model, because seeing his facial expressions in that cinematic just really brought it to life, in my opinion.
How much, like, you either love or hate Garrosh, but how much did it amp you up? If you haven't seen the trailer, you have to go watch the 5.4 trailer because it's really phenomenal. I mean, they knocked it out of the park on this one. And especially for a patch trailer, not even like, this is like as good as like expansion trailers, right? I mean, this is like awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. People are really talking about this a lot, you know, are just kind of around the World of Warcraft here, and people are really jiving on this thing. It's kind of good to see the I guess hatred towards you know, the big bad guy coming around again. So that's, and
that's what they really nailed. I mean, they really kind of like just, you know, the emotions just all over the place. People saying want to play it. I don't want to play it because I don't know what happens with YouTube. They always screw with us when we mess stuff. It's behind me. You can find it anywhere. I gave you
the description of it.
It's back. Yeah. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I mean, it starts off with what I assume must be like the dark heart of Pandaria, being hauled out of the goblin mine. And then they brought it to the pool of outside Mogashan Palace by Garrosh himself. Before Taran Zoo intervenes, they kind of get into a little scuffle buff, and then Garrosh kind of drops the heart into the water. What do you got? I can't forget the fight.
What I didn't understand though.
Taran, he takes an axe to the chest. He takes an axe to the chest.
Yeah, man, takes an axe to the chest. Taran Zoo, like pow, right in the
Blizzard
chest.
Blizzard going all PG. I just wanted to see like blood dripping and just come out of his mouth or something.
No,
they didn't go that far.
It says so in the ratings.
I know.
Man.
But they did a really effective job, and gasping and stuff was just like, I was like watching. I was like, oh my god, I feel like this hurts.
Yeah. It didn't look good. It didn't look good for Taran Zoo, that's for sure.
No, but I kind of also, I was said this on Twitter because I was trying really hard not to spoiler it. But I saw it drop this morning. I was trying really hard not to spoiler it, and I said, like, I really want that to be final. Like, I really want that to actually, like, kill people already, Blizzard. Jeez, I mean, you know, maybe had a better record of this when I didn't pay attention to lore at all. So I'm really happy to be corrected. But, like, just kill some people, honestly. Take some records, take some lessons from Game of Thrones, take some lessons from
exactly.
George R. R. Martin,
that's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Your cast, you know, it makes it more compelling.
That's the kind of like television and media we're in today. Like, that would have been what they do in Game of Thrones, like you said, would have been like never thought of in the past, and now like people kind of love that. And we don't know if he really dies. He takes the axe to the chest, but we don't really know if he dies or not. And I'm going to kind of.
They did that with Bolvar, and people freaked.
But people should. People should freak
That's
out
okay.
about that.
That's great.
It should be exciting. It should be like compelling and interesting and good and different. And it shouldn't just be like, oh well, he's not going to die because they won't kill Taran Zoo or they won't kill so and so. That's boring. It's like Shakespeare used to do that. He used to just waste everyone in plays.
I mean, come on. Did we not all remember?
A pile of corpses.
Do we not all remember when Lord Stark got his head chopped off in the first season, and you were just like, "Did that just fucking happen? Like, seriously? What? Did that really happen?" And you couldn't believe that it was going to happen, and it did.
It's important to have, you know, like, nice characters that you care for actually die, because that means that it will bring you emotionally into this game a little bit more and maybe attach you a little bit more to what's going on. And I do think that there's some problems, some issues this expansion with just kind of attachment to the story. And I think that, you know, having a character to kind of rally behind is a good thing in this case. It's really good.
All right, so what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the trailer overall, as far as like the Blizzard trailers go, Mr. Mike Shaftnet? What did you think?
I think they did a really good job. I don't want to say they blew it away, but there was a lot of awesome stuff. The biggest problem, and we will probably get into this, is it felt really one-sided as to as an Alliance player. I didn't really have much to rally behind. I did I've always really liked these trailers though, and I think for great example, you know, when we saw a lot of the stuff coming out, crazy camera, when we saw a lot of the stuff that was coming out for the Siege of Orgrimmar and why you were starting in the when you were starting in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, I kind of wondered. I was like, okay, so why did this become infected with Shaw? Why is this completely obliterated and going all crazy? And this trailer, I think, did a really good job of being like, oh, okay, that's why for 5.4 we've got to go to Terrace of the Endless Spring first. We've got to take care of what he did first before we can turn around and go fight Garrosh in Orgrimmar. And I've always really liked that. I always really like these trailers that do a really good job of setting you up for a reason to go into the raid, because I've especially with this trailer, I've never wanted to go jump into a raid more faster, and I have no raid group to do it with, so I've got to wait.
Yeah, if only LFR or Flex.
I know.
If only Mike Schaffner.
I know.
But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of, I liked the trailer. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was a good trailer. I was like sort of kind of hoping that there would be a bit more involvement rather than just Garrosh and Taranzu. Like I was like, oh, Taranzu, really? What's he doing here? Okay. Like I don't really know the story behind it, so maybe there's something there that he's all about with the Shadow Pen and stuff, like defending the place or something. But yeah, there was no anyone else. Like put some other people in there, like some more of the Horde, or maybe some Alliance.
Right. Well, and that's
Crazy
always been
thinking. I know.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of people kind of took to Twitter, talking about how the Alliance was excluded from this. But really, the reality is that both sides were excluded from it, because you have the Horde players, and then you have the Alliance players. Neither side was actually represented. It was Garrosh's true Horde.
And
right?
you've got
and that's sort of what I took away from it. And then at the end, especially when you're seeing every like, to me, the climax is the fact that like they're building up to the point that like this whole push is going to be about you, the players, on both sides. Like this isn't just about like this one story.
Right.
Like now I feel like we're now at that point that we heard so long ago about like, we've gotten beyond the calm before the storm, and now it's like time to bring war. Like, and that's what I feel like the end of this kind of really kind of told.
Yeah.
Well, and you gotta
go ahead, Mike.
Well, you just got to understand that the narrative here is Garrosh's message. That's what this needs to be about. It doesn't need to be about the Alliance. It doesn't need to be about Varian coming in and being like, "Screw you, we're gonna attack." It literally has to just set you up like, Garrosh is a dick. We need to go stop him. And that's what it does.
My main reaction to the trailer, like I felt bad. My main reaction to the trailer was, like, I watched the whole trailer and I was like, yeah, like standard supervillain trope of, yes, come to my lair. I've got all these wonderful traps prepared for you. It's like, all right. My main response to the trailer is, I hope Taranzu dies.
Right.
I really hope Taranzu dies.
Right.
Am I just like completely heartless? I was like, well, I don't really care about the whole Garrosh thing. We've seen it coming for so long. It's so predictable now, and it's just like, yeah, sure, Hearts, Shah, Garrosh. I wonder if Taranzu dies. And apparently, Dave Kozak actually tweeted earlier that he doesn't, which is really disappointing me.
Oh, really? We really got confirmation?
Yeah, so I just got a message that Dave Kozak tweeted that it wasn't going to happen. So sad times.
Wow.
Well, happy times for Taranzu. Sad times for me.
Sad times. He doesn't actually die, folks. I'm
sad
sorry.
Times. Listen, grow some balls.
We're really sorry. He lives.
Grow some more balls and just kill some characters. Grow some balls, guys.
Wait, why would he reveal that?
Maybe people are freaking out that someone actually might die in Mr. Pandaria.
But wasn't it the point of what is that their whole point of the build up in the trailer? Like they spent all that time doing that and building up that whole thing. Like
the point of the trailer was to set up, like I said, to set up Garrosh's narrative. I'm not saying
but they leave you with a cliffhanger where he's
Taranzu.
like gasping for air and he just got an axe to the chest and you're like, man, I wonder if he's gonna make it. Is he gonna die? And you can't leave that trailer not asking that question. Why would you go on Twitter the same day it comes out and just answer that question?
Because the PTR is already out and people already know what's going on. That's the real
spoiler alerts.
I think he's in the raid. He appears in the raid as well, but he's like not quite dead. Like he's struggling or something. I'm trying to remember exactly how it happens.
Is it like the Vol'jin thing where he's just kind of like laying down, hanging out and stuff like that? I mean, just kind of gasping
slumped in a corner or something.
Right. Exactly. So it's like Vol'jin in 5.2 or whatever. So now we're getting the same thing here. The cool thing is, and Mike, to kind of build off of your thing, I know that you were talking about Garrosh's narrative. The reason that they used the Pandaran guy any of them. It doesn't really matter which one, not to me anyway, because I don't care about story all that much. But the reason that they use the Pandaren is because he is neutral, right? So they use one guy, one solid character to represent kind of both sides of this whole argument and all that stuff. So that's what I think.
The other thing that maybe why they chose to go with a Pandaren is, especially right after we got the Burdens of Shao videos where they were talking about, doubt and the Pandaren overcoming all these Sha. There was a 2 keyword where he talked about anger and fear. Garrosh mentions your anger and fear, or he says something to them. I can't remember the exact words, but as Alliance, they couldn't speak from this omnipresent, like, we dealt with this and we're above it because we've learned how to handle it. The Pandaren are a good conflict of interest for Garrosh to run into. The Alliance are just there essentially to kind of take him on and take him down. But the Pandaren are the ones that kind of know more.
All right, well, since it's apparent that Mike Shaft is the only person who actually cares about all the, blood, sweat, and tears Blizzard puts into their story.
Would you be sad, Mike Shaft, if they killed Taranzu? Would you be sad?
I wouldn't care either way.
See,
but here's the thing. Did he
kill him?
But did the trailer really want to make you kill Garrosh, or do you want to side with him?
No, it like I said, I think that the trailer did a really good job of setting up his narrative and getting me behind the idea of, like, holy crap, this guy needs to be stopped because this is ridiculous. I even think, I could be wrong, but I think I got chills the moment it flashed into, like, the Siege of Orgrimmar raid footage. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to get to do all this. Like, I don't know. I was fully in support of, like, the idea behind going after Garrosh because of this video.
And Pat and Olivia could care less. They're like,
well, we're going to go after him anyway. I mean, I think that's kind of
do the right.
Like,
we're gonna do it.
We'd go after Varian if he was on the chopping block. We don't.
Yeah, man, if he was the final raid boss, then whatever. I kind of want them to blow up. I just want them to blow up. I'm so tired of Pandaria. I can't even tell you. I'm done with Pandaria. I'm done with pandas.
If it was Taranzu, I'd be in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, if it was Taranzu, I'd be in there now.
I'll finish him off.
Oh my God,
at the end.
If it was Law Walker Cho, I'd be in there like literally. I'd be freaking geared. I'd be geared to 500, like 550. I'd be like clawing down the doors to kill Law Walker Cho.
You're in Vale of Eternal Blossoms. You walk right up to Taranzu, who's struggling, and you have an option to either continue the raid or kill Taranzu. Olivia would kill Taranzu.
Yes, I would. I'm so done with pandas. I'm so done. I'm just like, I want this expansion to be stopped now so that we can just be moving away from Pandaria and pandas. I'm over it.
If Taranzu had a loot table, I would definitely kill him. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you guys are terrible. So we also pretty much could have had a confirmed release date for patch 5.4. So that's going to be August 27th. So just under 2 weeks for that. It hasn't been officially confirmed by Blizzard, but they did release a blog earlier in the week that said that the PvP season would end on the 27th. And then that's a long. Holinka tweeted that the day the season ended would be actually the day that the patch dropped. So, is this earlier than you guys expected? I mean, it's still not 100% confirmed. I would take it, right? That was just from a tweet.
No, and I think that's still like I don't think we should take that as like completely 100%. Definitely, like it wouldn't be the first time that things had shifted. And like they were only talking just the other day about how they're shifting into the tuning phase of the balancing and everything. So they've done with all the mechanics changes. They're now going into actually tuning numbers. So that could take longer. Like I feel that process ought to take longer than a week and a half. Like we saw the first tuning patch yesterday, I think, from memory. And I feel like that maybe, will they be able to get that done? It's going to be quick. It's going to be some fast patches.
Yeah, there's going to be some fast turnaround too, because they just started doing 25-man heroic testing as well. So, I mean, they've got a few bosses to kind of test out. The encounter team has a lot of work to do in the next, week and a half or whatever.
I'm not trying to say they don't try and adjust heroic tuning, but they don't look at it as like they want to get people in, test it so that numbers are at least reasonable. But I don't think they ever go to the like. I could be wrong, but they're pretty much tuning heroic as they go through it, aren't they? Because they're
that is kind of how it seems to be, and it's not necessarily as imperative to do a quick turnaround because they still have a week after the release of the patch to fine tune all the numbers, so they can do some of that in house. But at the same time, they do want to get other people in there and make sure that nothing is too screwy. You know what I mean? So they've done all the normal testing. They've done 10-man heroic. Now they're starting on 25-man heroic. And yes, it's a lot of work to do in the next, well, I guess, 2.5 weeks for the heroic.
Yeah.
Side of things, but. And
I think from that perspective, I was kind of surprised to hear it coming this soon, because like where we've been on the PTR recently, like I'm sure like Pat and Shaf have been on there as well. Like we've seen a lot of stuff that's kind of still a little bit buggy, and like the play with the blues, the PTR was just like dropping all over the place because they were trying out Connected Realms, I believe. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on there that's still a bit sort of okay.
Are most people done with 5.3 by this point? Doesn't it seem like most people are kind of done?
I think so. I think a lot of people are kind of over it with 5.3 now.
I was over 5.3 about 2 weeks into it. I was like, that was cool. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got other things to do than this weekly. So
yeah, it's
Right.
the weekly quest. Like, I mean, I suppose there's PvP changes as well with the whole stuff that happened there. But yeah, 5.3 wasn't the most exciting patch in the world.
But then again, it was content that was released over the summer. We know that summer content has never been really well received. Just in general, I think that you can always say that numbers are down a little bit in the summer because people are on vacation, holiday, whatever. So yeah, summer stuff just doesn't necessarily fly as well as stuff like during the school year. Now we're going back to school, so we got to have a patch. That's it. That's
well,
it.
and also,
We're back
am
to
I mistaken, or are there a couple of other games coming out?
Maybe launching on the 27th, I believe, is the date.
Something like it.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
Might actually.
Blizzard isn't known for doing that.
They never do that sort of thing. Never do that sort of thing. I can't remember one other occasion ever that they've done.
Oh well, yeah.
Confirmed. Blizzard are griefers.
You're talking about Hearthstone, right? Hearthstone's coming out on the 27th.
Yeah. It's not that FFXIV thing. Never heard of that.
What's that thing? I've never even heard of FFXIV.
That sounds stand for.
Is that code?
What does that even mean? Is that
is that code?
Did you just give out a beta key or something? Like, what's even happening here?
Oh, look, I won't say who's in chat room, but they're sort of blowing it off like they don't even know it exists. Yeah, sure. Sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
Right.
Don't even reference that you've ever even heard of that other game coming out at the same exact time. Griefers.
Very odd. It's very odd.
What do you guys suggest now? All right, so now we got to wait a little bit, a couple weeks. But what do you guys suggest people do now while they're just waiting, getting ready for the patch? What do they do? What do you do?
One of the things that you want to do is you want to make sure to hit the Baron stuff if you haven't yet. That is going to be going away. The Battlefield Baron stuff is going to be going away, and they're going to be transitioning into the 5.4 stuff. So there's going to be all new 5.4 stuff at the Timeless Isle, which will be fun. But you want to do the Battlefield Barons. You want to gather up all the coins and loot and all this other stuff from 5.3.
Is there anything in Battlefield Barons that's worth taking the time to access besides potentially just gear?
If you haven't done the weekly yet, you'll want to do the weekly because that is going to be part of the feat of strength. When 5.4 hits, it's going to turn it into a feat of strength, and that's part of one of the achievements of the. And I can't remember exactly what the achievement is. I'm sorry. But
there's a bunch of exciting story content, maybe. Perhaps, potentially, depends what faction you play. I hear.
Says with sarcasm.
No, I'm sure there is. I just I haven't noticed it particularly. I got some 502 boots. There's 502 boots in there.
Well, and Olivia, yeah. I mean, there's also that whole extra part of the legendary chain that you need to do for your item. So
right.
Shut up.
You might want to get on that one.
There's no legend. Wait, is there seriously legendary quest stuff in Battlefield Barons or not? Is he trolling me? And he's trolling me.
That's not in Battlefield. It's not in
Yeah,
Battlefield.
there's just a piece of the chain to do.
Right.
I didn't believe you.
You will want to pick that up at some point, though, Liv.
I did pick it up. I picked it up on my US chamois the other day.
Good. There you go.
I don't think good is the word that we're looking for here.
Enjoy doing that whole chain at the last patch. I hope it's fun.
That's right.
All right, I want to talk about this whole melee versus range DPS thing that's going on. But first thing I want to tell you guys about Audible. If you guys have not checked it out, what the heck are you waiting for? Audible.com. Go over to Audible, and we'll hook you guys up with a free 30-day trial and a free book. And guess what is on there? I haven't started this yet. It's next on my list. I already downloaded it. Mike Shaftnit's listening to it right now. Yes, the World of Warcraft Vol'jin Shadows of the Horde book is up on Audible. That's right. So we get a little sample going right here. We get a sample? What's up with my audio lately? It's not working correctly. Anyway, check it out. Shaftnit, you've been listening to this. What do you think?
It's doing a really good job of kind of putting you in the head of what's going on with Vol'jin and everything that's kind of leading up to this this raid. So it's a really good book out there for people who maybe watched the cinematic that came out and then wanted to know more, not just if Terran Zoo died. So I recommend it for anybody who actually likes story. Go check it out.
Hey, I like story just fine, okay? I like story just fine. I'm all about the stories, just not Warcraft story. Not interested in it in games. I like games because I like playing games. If I want to read a book, guess what? Or Audible, I'll listen to one. There's a ton of other good books that aren't World of Warcraft books that are also on Audible.
I find that amazingly hilarious and interesting at the same time. Go check it out. Written by Michael Stackpole, narrated by Scott Brick, getting great reviews. It is up on Audible right now, and if you guys have not checked it out yet, it is audiobooks. You download the application to your iOS or Android device, and you can check out the service absolutely free for 30 days, and we're going to give you guys one free audiobook just by using the URL audible.com/gamebreaker. Got to use that URL. That's all you got to do. Just go sign up, make an account, and get to going, and you can be listening to some World of Warcraft. There's a few others on there as well. I think there's about 4 World of Warcraft books on there, so go check it out, audible.com/gamebreaker. All right, moving on. There's been some interesting discussion over on the official forums, and keeping an eye on that. All about melee versus ranged DPS. So basically, people have been saying that ranged outperforms melee in most fights, and that melee need more buffs. Our ex-legendary host / turncoat / he's in chat. Yeah, you know him. It's Lore. He dropped into the thread to calm everybody down on this one. Did you guys read this? Because I'm amazed at how fast he's just fit into the role of the way he speaks to the community. Right? He says, balance between ranged and melee DPS is a tough issue to solve and one that we talk about regularly. As the game has evolved over the years, both in class and encounter design, we've certainly gotten to a point where ranged have some strong advantages over melee. You'd think he'd been there since like day one. Part of how we try to compensate for this is by giving melee more raw damage in standstill situations, and we're making some adjustments toward that toward the end in 5.4. Ideally, there should be some fights where ranged tend to come out on top, and some fights where melee tend to come out on top. So we've cut off the second half of the post here, but he goes on to add that melee, just not having to worry about the mechanics is a bad solution to the problem. So first up, I don't know, do you guys see similar representation issues in the raids that you guys are running?
There's definitely a concern.
While I'm probably getting yelled at, so go ahead.
Well, there's definitely a concern with melee versus range, and I know that when my raid team was setting up, we had too many melee. We had 3, I think, and now we're down to 2, thankfully, which is not bad because I mean melee do have some problems. I
love how it's like two or 3. That's not bad, but we'd like to have none because ranged are just better.
Well, 3 is probably just a little bit too much. I mean, especially with all the concerns out there. I mean, it's kind of tough. And then you put in boss mechanics and stuff like that where they're trying to avoid different mechanics and trying to spread out around the boss and all this kind. It becomes kind of a nightmare for a lot of the melee stuff because you have 2 tanks, and then if you have 3 melee, that's half your team, right, on a 10-man. So it would be nice to be able to spread out a little bit more, especially with a lot of the mechanics that are going on, at least in Throne of Thunder and other raids that we've seen in Mists of Pandaria. But yeah, it's always been weird. It's always been weird. This entire expansion, melee has been weird. And they gave melee, what was it, a 20% buff? Just, here you go, here's a buff. Okay, great. Perfect. That will solve everything. So I guess if there are still imbalances, they'll just go, all right, we'll make it a 25% buff. How's that? How's that? We'll give you another 5%.
Yeah, hit harder, awesome. Hit harder.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know, and I think like definitely the same thing in the like it raids. My raid is not like a sort of hardcore raid in any way. Like we're not pushing heroic progression or anything like that. But even for a sort of normal mode guild, which are more casual, having as a healer particularly, you can really feel the nights when you've got a slightly too melee heavy composition, because there's just seems to be like a lot more. If the tanks misposition the boss, then the melee have to stand in stuff or like run around like headless chickens to avoid things. And like I don't know quite why it is, and I think it might be a spreading thing, it might be just a positioning thing, because melee have it so much harder with that. But when we have too many melee, we just seem to be healing like crazy. Whereas we had one night when we had literally no melee DPS and all ranged, and it was so easy. Everything was so easy, and it was just like, oh well, there we go. Let's get rid of that. But then it's a shame when you can stick your healing rain on something when you've got melee, whereas range just like, I don't want to stand in that blue puddle of healy goodness. Weird. This is the worst.
I mean, part of the problem is Pat, like you said, like just providing a stat, like a percentage increase, isn't fun or gratifying for the melee. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, I get to do the same thing. You're just basically artificially inflating my damage. But then on the reverse side, we're beyond the point where patchwork fights can exist. You can't have stationary fights that work. I mean, I guess you can, but typically it's pretty hard, and 90% of the stationary fights are giant bosses that they don't let you stand behind, so it hurts melee anyway.
Also on the edges of cliffs. So the other thing is as well, like things like we've got so many fights at the minute where you're not just hitting like one thing that moves around. Like there's always this sort of there's a ton of target switching that seems to need to take place, and while
target switching kills me. That's awful. I hate target switching as a druid. As a druid, it's like, okay, sweet, I got all my bleeds up. Oh, there's an ad over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I need to do that. Oh, for God's sake. Yeah, I can imagine, like, I don't play a rogue because I have an ardent hatred of them in PvP. But, like, I can imagine, like, combo points for Feral as well. Like, that must be a complete pig with target switching. Whereas with ranged, like, and, with Warrior, at least you can charge. A Paladin, you can do that awesome judgment thing, which lets you run a bit faster. And a DK,
combo points suck.
Yeah.
they do. Because you're, like, sitting there and you're like, oh, crap, I got 3 combo points, but he's about to die. But I need 5 for this to be even worth for me to Savage Roar. I don't have my freaking symbiosis on a rogue, so I can't redirect, and I can't take my bleeds because I didn't symbiosis the warlock either. I put it on the shaman for ghost wolves. Now what am I like? It is not fun for combo points. Combo point class is the target switch. It's awful.
And like with melee as well, there's just the difficulty of actually getting to it.
Right.
Like you've got to actually be next to the thing you're hitting. That's that the clues in the melee name. So it's not just a case of clicking across to a different target. It's a case of actually getting there and running around the room and losing that damage while you're in transit as well.
Playing melee is frustrating. It is very frustrating for a lot of different reasons, and ads are definitely one of those major reasons why I won't play melee. I just won't do it.
I mean, I think melee has always been the play style that I prefer out of the two. I've played a mage, I played a paladin, and I've played a druid, and I've always preferred melee just because I enjoy that nature of getting up in someone's face. I don't like, especially I don't mind trying to find my way behind someone to get my best attacks. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I think the biggest frustration that melee runs into is Lei Shin is a perfect example of a fight that just makes it so easy for ranged, because we're sitting over by a tower. I'm sitting here meleeing, the tank starts dragging him, And yes, I can run with the tank, but it's like range is just literally like, oh, we're gonna move him. Okay, cool. No, it's fine. Go ahead, just keep moving. No, it's fine. All right, cool, we're good. Melee's like, I gotta catch up. I gotta avoid all this stuff. I gotta run around here, and like I'm not complaining, but it just like it does.
You are.
Melee. No, I'm
Yeah, I'd say that's complaining. I would say that. I would say that was complaining. I would agree.
Complaining. I'm just basically stating that Melee has an inherently tougher time in a raid situation to deal with it, and it's not like I wish we had fights that were a little bit more tailored to us. The problem with is if you create a fight that's tailored to being okay for Melee to stand around and just get your rotations up, the same probably applies for range. So they just get to stand still and do nothing as well. So it doesn't really work like that because they are two different dynamics.
By the way, Mike, just real quick, and then Liv, I'll let you go. By the way, you're not getting right up into the boss's face because they build those bosses so big. You're getting up into the boss's crotch, and is that what?
Right up in his ankles. You're getting right up in his shins.
Right up in his craw.
Lay shins. Gotta take a shower.
Yeah.
It smells awful. But,
starting to sink.
But I mean, what like Shafi, you were just saying, what do you think then that they could do to make fights that weren't patchwork, Ultraxian, whatever, that actually were good for Melee? What do you actually, what would you say that they should do?
Like I said, I honestly don't think I've got the solution here because I enjoy the fights that have movement to them. I think some of my favorite are a lot of the ones out of ICC. But at the same time, it's just like you guys said, it's an inherent problem. Melee has to get to the target. Combo point Melee has to build combo points. We have to move around out of stuff. There's a big issue with, okay, we've got a debuff that lands on Melee. Melee's now got to spread out, whereas ranged are already spread out to begin with. I don't know the solution. I just do sympathize and understand the inherent difficulties that Melee have versus what ranged have.
One of the things that I do think has changed over the course of, probably the last 4 or 5 years anyway, is that encounter design has taken into account that melee and ranged are different. And so they do different mechanics for those different areas. Like a lot of like single target mechanics will hit range or will target range, so that range has to actually think about it and move. But one of the problems is that a lot of ranged classes now can cast on the move. So
not so much after patch 5.4.
Right, but a lot of them have been able to cast on the move, and that has been kind of another wrench that's been thrown into the works to make sure that range has been dominant in DPS.
Well, and casting on the move has been a product of PvP, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because they've needed to allow ranged the ability to deal with melee in their face, but they obviously look at hunters. They took away hunters' minimum distance so that they could deal with pretty much melee in PvP situations. But it kind of sucked for melee because that was melee's one way of like, oh, crap,
dude,
if we leave this hunter, we're gonna get screwed. So what does that mean? That means we have to stay on the hunter so he can't shoot us. That was like, I liked that idea. And I know every hunter hated it, but that was a strategy.
I missed that as well. Like I missed that as the healer. Like it was, the only way you can't interrupt a hunter. The only way you could shut them down was to just hug them. Give them a love. Or
just stick a warrior on them, and then it was done because warriors were so horrible for hunters back in Wrath. It's just so horrible. It was like every time that I went out into any battleground, a warrior would get on me as a hunter, and I was like, just please leave me alone, please. Just please, I don't care. And then I would die.
Yeah. But no, I think the casting while moving thing is definitely something that needs to be sort of fixed. And they are taking steps to do that. I think, KJC is being nerfed, and like mages are still going to have Scorch, and, Shaman is still going to have Lightning Bolt. But there's no, like the Shadow Priests who've been QQing about saying, oh, we want a thing to cast on the move. No, Shadow Priest. No.
You guys were tuned correctly.
All we want to do, say the Shadow Priest, is to be able to cast Mind Flame while we're running. No.
Yeah, that's a little much.
Shadow Priests. No.
That's a little much.
Does it matter? Does it matter at all that where some of these numbers came from are from normal and heroic like Shen kills? So is it really a really good representation of the masses here?
I think that there's an element there of, these are the people who are really, and it's a funny sort of situation where you always look at these super, super high level guilds and then forget that, 90% of the player base just doesn't play like that at all. And like people look at these, people do this silly thing where they look at these numbers and they look at this representation and then they say, oh, well, if I can't remember what was at the bottom of the list now, but say it was enhanced shaman were kind of lowish down below other elemental shaman. And they say, oh, well, if I'm an enhancement shaman, then I'm not going to get a raid spot. It's like, yeah, you will. Most guilds don't play like this. Like most guilds are sort of, I reckon there's a much higher percentage of friends and family type or more casual guilds would just take someone who does decent DPS and not be like, oh, well, the representation here is low, so there's probably a reason why people aren't bringing these. Then it's important to look at the very high end as well.
The interesting thing about representation, I think, is not for the, casual raider or even for the, well, I guess maybe a little bit for the heroic raider, but not necessarily. It's more interesting for the developers, really. I mean, if you're going to be looking at these numbers, I would think that the developers would look at these numbers in a totally different way and say, well, okay, why aren't people playing rogues more? Or why aren't people playing elemental shaman more? What is going on with these classes? And what can we do to bring that back so that people will be playing them more?
But I think also there's a thing like with representation, there's a lot of these numbers floating around, and I think sometimes people put too much weight on them. Like, for example, looking at shaman, like, in PvP, and I know more about PvP, so I'm going to talk about that more, but it's like this thing with certain classes being, like, certain specs being low represented. So they were talking about this a lot previous patches, where Ret paladins had lower representation. Because if you're playing a paladin and you're doing arenas, people are like, you're not holy because...
Right.
And it's the same with, like, shaman, like healing shaman is like, and you're not resto because... And there's got to be an element of that there that's shifting this around. And, there's going to be a recognized best spec. And that, again, is based off these sort of numerical things that you should be doing this. So the more disciplined priests you see, the more people are like, oh, you shouldn't be holy, you should go disc. And the more disciplined priests you see. And it's sort of this funny psychological thing if I should be playing the right spec for my class for raiding or for PvP, and then it self-perpetuates. It's a funny situation, and people put too much score in these numbers.
Yep. Last up this week, before we hit some viewer questions, we've got an interesting tweet from Mr. G Street, up in the beat, king of the beat. He's talking about hunters specifically.
No pressure, man.
And he's responding to a tweet basically about hunters having too many abilities on their bars. So he confirms that there are plans to reduce the number of abilities and adds that there will be many tiers. Pat, you play a hunter.
Yeah.
Are there going to be tiers?
Probably. One of the great things about hunters, other than they can pretty much cast everything on the move and be totally fine and smash everybody's face in with arrows and whatnot, is that they have a lot of control things that they can do, and it's not the only class. It's definitely not the only class that has all of these different buttons, but I have probably 4 bars full of stuff on my hunter, and it ranges from traps to different shots to different special items, lots of cooldowns, and it's pretty awesome once you learn it and master it and try to make it a kind of live the life of the hunter. But there is a lot of bloat. There's a lot of button bloat, and it's not just hunters. It's shaman or shaman, live. There's lots of. We were talking about that on Sunday on Convert to Raid, and there are lots of buttons that you need to push. And so I think that there needs to be some sort of simplification. And yes, I will miss it. But I know that it needs to happen.
What would you like to see done about it?
I think that there are certain things that can be, like lesser shots that maybe and again, I don't have anything in front of me, whatever. I don't know names. Who cares? But certain shots probably could be combined with others that kind of do similar things. But I don't know. It's really tough.
What
And
about
that's
this?
going to.
Do you feel that readiness was a good ability? I think Greg did a great job explaining why why they got rid of it, but I was actually shocked because that to me felt, at least in PvP, that ability is so overpowered. It's like, my abilities back, and I'm back in the game.
Well, it was funny because I mean, Readiness, they're totally rehauling it for 5.4 because it didn't make sense. It was okay if you blow Bloodlust off of the top for hunters. Basically, what you do is you go through your rotation, your entire opening bit, and get all of this powerful damage out, and then you just hit a button, and then you redo all of that. And during the time of Bloodlust, you have just maximized all of that time and put in so much power, so much DPS into your target that you have a huge head start on everybody else in the game. And it was ridiculously overpowered, but I celebrated that.
They were saying that they even wanted to get rid of the readiness because of that. But mostly because it was like readiness is this cool ability that they wanted to be like, oh, situationally, suddenly I need my abilities back. Boom, awesome, I got them. But people were using it because it was more effectively used in the situation where it's like, hey, start the battle, boom, pop it, use my rotation twice, and then off to the races. They weren't using it to save it; they were just using it as a burst cooldown. And I think that's why they're looking at reiterating.
Yes, that was a big part of it. And another thing was, another funny thing was, in my raid team where I actually play a Resto Druid, and have 2 hunters on the team, during the Lei Shen encounter, those guys had to save their readiness because they were kind of roaming around the disco floor during the intermission, and so they had to save their readiness for that time, and they were complaining so hard because they couldn't hit readiness and get that DPS going right away at the start of the fight. It's like, guys, come on, you got a job. Let's go.
But that's the thing, and Josh says this in chat, is hunters weren't using readiness the way that, for example, rogues use preparation. And it's true in PvE. But in PvP is, I think, where it was seeing a lot of utility, where it was getting used like preparation. Yeah. So that to me, I don't know. I'm not saying, like I said, I don't understand. I don't not understand why they did it, but it's just like it seemed like it took such a hard hit because people weren't using it properly in PvE. And I think there are abilities out there that kind of can't be. Like there are abilities that are specifically designed for PvP that may bring you an awesome DPS buff. In PvP, they were using readiness to reset BW. I don't know what BW is. Bestial Wrath.
Bestial Wrath, yeah.
Well, then get rid of it because they're not using it. There's like, I need Bestial Wrath twice. Okay, then get rid of it.
Yeah, the Beast Mastery Hunters in PvP, especially right away in the beginning of this expansion, it was horrible how overpowered they were. And there were a lot of complaints about how overpowered Beast Mastery was in PvP. The matches were generally over in 30 seconds. And if they weren't over in 30 seconds, then you had to wait another 3 minutes or whatever it was until all the cooldowns reset, and then it was over, usually. So.
Yeah. There's 3 buttons and win.
What do you guys think of more of like a general question, I guess? Like, what do you guys think of, like, do you guys think, like, I know the chat room's going to blow up and say, no, because every time they hear things like this and I use the word, complicated or simplified, people are going to flip out and say, please don't simplify the game. But I don't know. Do you guys think that World of Warcraft's abilities across the board are just a little bit too complicated? And that, like, would you like to see them simplified? A lot of newer MMOs are really kind of streamlining the experience of what that is, and really kind of even dialing down the number of options that you have.
One of the problems about a game that has been going on this long is that you want to introduce new, exciting things to each and every class, each and every spec that you possibly can. And then what happens is that you hit something like what we're hitting right now, and you go, oh, wait, hold on a sec. I have to hit like 57 buttons in order to make this encounter work for my team. Great. Perfect. Awesome. So I think we are at the time where a lot of these classes need to be looked at, and the button bloat needs to go down somehow, some way, without the use of macros.
Here's what I think the problem is kind of based on the longevity of the games. The longevity of the game with these abilities that have been introduced have presented all sorts of various scenarios. And the button bloat comes from introducing additional abilities to deal and counteract some of these other abilities. They're not given to everyone, but I have abilities on my bar that are strictly to deal with one situation.
Right.
And that's it. And it's taking up a valuable space. I get that it's nice to have that ability for the situation, but maybe it's not just the ability needs to be taken away, it's the situation needs to be addressed. Maybe there's just too many situations in the game that call for too many different abilities. So if they were to address it like that, I don't think that they would want to just pull abilities and take stuff from people, because that's what people are afraid of. If you just start taking abilities away and simplifying stuff, then you won't have as much to deal with everything that's been being thrown at you. That's why you like those abilities. You would have to address the problem, which is what other people are doing, and that's why you have those buttons on your bar.
I think there's been also a sort of element of, everybody has to have everything, and that's kind of been taken on by people on the forums as well. Who sort of say, oh, well, this class has this, why don't we have this? And the developers have given it, and in my personal opinion, the developers have given into that a little bit too readily in sort of giving everyone, making, like, it's the homogenization that Mike Shaffnet loves talking about so much. And, the developers have been a little bit too quick to sort of give in to these calls for, but class X has a this, why don't we have a this? And then they've been like, oh, well, okay, we'll make sure you have a that. That seems reasonable. And, there's been a bit of that going on. I think that's been a problem as well.
Yes. And here's the phrase for you. Entitlement is kind of one of those phrases that kind of gets bandied about from time to time. And yeah, people want stuff because other people have stuff, and that's how we get homogenization, as Mike likes to talk about it all the time. He always talks about it all the time. Entitlement leads to homogenization.
Yeah, that's his catchphrase. He has that tattoo on his arm and everything.
Yeah, he does.
But I think, why not? Like, they don't have to go through and take away half of Hunter's abilities, but could they not just, put it in and combine? And again, I don't play a Hunter well enough to know how they could possibly do this, but combine stuff together, make it so that your deterrence always roots people, or something. I don't know, something along those lines. It seems like there's other stuff they could do than just taking buttons away.
Right.
I froze. I can tell. I can tell from chat room that I froze.
Yes, you did.
And I can tell from GoToMeeting as well, because I'm now in a room by myself.
Oh,
right. I knew the chat room would blow up with that question. It just completely went out of control. All right. I want to do some fewer questions, but really quick. Want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Shutterstock. If you guys checked out Shutterstock, if you guys have a website or a YouTube page, you guys need to check out Shutterstock. I'm telling you. You need to check out Shutterstock. If you guys have, we're adding websites all the time now, but I don't know if you guys know, we have a website also part of the Game Breaker Network called Free to Play, and it's freetoplay.tv. If you guys are looking for a free to play game, you should definitely check it out. But when we were looking to do something with the logo, we wanted to do something with a logo modification, so we wanted to look for a modifier. So we wanted to keep the Game Breaker logo. We wanted to do something different with it, and we weren't quite sure what to do. And I immediately went over to Shutterstock and I started doing some searches, looking around, seeing what I could find, and saving some stuff. And here's some of the stuff I kind of started looking at. I was looking at some icons, and I was looking at robots, and I was looking at this ninja guy. And then there's some other generic stuff. And then, look, you see here. There's our little free-to-play man. We came across this guy. I kind of really liked this as part of our logo. And that's a perfect example of what, you come in here and you can kind of manipulate and take, some of the artwork and use it for your own needs. So we didn't just use that piece of artwork, but we also combined it with our additional logo. And again, that's something that just we probably would have spent so much more time on than we had to without Shutterstock. If you guys want to save 30% off, all you got to do is use promo code GameBreaker8. I should say that you don't need to sign up for a paid account right away. You can sign up right now and have a free account and kind of start looking, searching through stuff and sorting it and adding it to what's called light boxes and things like that. So you can kind of look at another time. And then if you guys decide to join up, make sure to use the promo code GameBreaker8, and it's going to save you guys 30% off. So it is part of our daily arsenal of weaponry here at Gamebreaker TV for our YouTube page, our websites, everything.
They also have a lovely app.
The app is amazing.
Look at that.
The app's fantastic.
You can go take a look through the app, and you can get all these different awesome pictures, put it in your light boxes, and have a good time.
Have a great time. No, it is. The app's
great time.
The app's gorgeous. The app is gorgeous on a new iPad.
Yeah, it's great.
So
it's great.
It looks awesome. Check it out. Again, make sure you use offer code GameBreaker8. Offers good only on new accounts. All right, let's do some viewer questions. We love viewer questions and we love video questions. If you guys have a question for the Gamebreaker crew, the legendary crew, send over to submit@gamebreaker.tv. And if you have a video question, record yourself, post it up on the YouTube, and send that link over to submit@gamebreaker.tv. Try and keep it around 30 to 60 seconds. It'll give us like some 10-minute video. Probably won't get shown. So 30 to 60 seconds, I would say, is about tops. And we've actually got, 3 video questions this week? Holy cow.
Whoa.
When I say they're longer, they're only 2 minutes. Don't worry, there's no 10-minute video question in there this week.
No 10s.
No,
all right, this one first up is from Nick Rodriguez.
Hey, Gamebreaker. This is G.Lock from US Malganis. I've been starting to notice that we're already seeing, end of the expansion woes, and we haven't even seen the last tier yet. So, I just think it's kind of weird that it's kind of hard to find, pugs for, 5.0 raids and stuff like that, and it's literally just, we're one raid in, and it's already hard to find pugs. And I'm on Malganis, so, I can only imagine what it'd be like on a different server. Yes, they are bringing virtual realms, but don't you think that an in-game add-on like OQ? We've already got Lose Control. It's another really good add-on. Why wouldn't we want something like that in the game? You'd be able to play with lots more people and connect through Real ID and just spread your Real ID through their system. You're not giving out your email address anymore. So I don't see a problem with that personally. You see other games that, lots of people play, like Call of Duty. You don't see them using third-party client to play Call of Duty. Well, we find ourselves using Open Raid and add-ons like OQ to find players to play with. We might as well just import that into the game, and then, they can change it so that you don't have, weird things happening, like somewhat weird things, like, the whole RBG, thing that they was going on was really just kind of weird. And then also...
All right, we could have stopped this a little while ago. So
You get the gist of it.
You could have cut that off at about 60. So should add-ons be allowed in sites like Open Raid? Should Blizzard kind of try and integrate some of this stuff to make life easier for pug content that requires pre-made groups? Interesting question.
Yeah, they're trying. With connected realms now. Remember, it's connected realms. It's not virtual realms. Let's get the terminology right, guys. First of all, so with connected realms, it should be easier to find pugs. Number one. And with things like flex raids, it should be easier because there will be more people there. There will be more people there. Yeah, more people in your particular connected realm. So you should be able to find pugs, find groups, find guilds with more people. Hopefully, that's the hope anyway. I think that it'll be really interesting to see how this actually rolls out in 5.4, and if it goes well, then having a third party like Open Raid or OQ is actually probably a good, little added bonus. But if it doesn't go well, if it kind of falls flat on its face, then I think Blizzard should absolutely look into getting something like this in game.
I think the problem with doing I personally use OQ a ton. It's like one of my most used add-ons, and I'm always recommending it to people. Constantly recommending OQ. I find it so incredibly useful. However, I can see that where Blizzard is sort of they have all these notions surrounding pug content. Like they think that you can't make content which you do with a pug too difficult because then pugs won't be able to do it. Right. Or they think that they feel that you should have to make friends on your server, and they want to sort of engender the notion of community by avoiding the looking for group tools and pugs. OQ is effectively an incredibly efficient cross-realm looking for group queue. And so I can see Blizzard sort of resisting incorporating something like that into the game because they want people to be like on their server trying to find pugs and trying to make friends, and also having pre-made groups that they know in order to be able to tackle this more difficult content. However, I would say that what OQ proves, if anything, is that actually pugs can take on some pretty hard challenges and be fine. They just have to be like, they just have to have a leader and be organized. And actually, that's one great thing about OQ is because of the nature of how you set up groups, there is kind of a predefined leader there. So like if I do a ton of RPGs, like a ton of, I'm too busy to be reliable to have a regular team for RPGs at the moment. So I do a ton of pug RPGs through OQ, and I'm a healer, so I don't tend to call targets, I don't tend to lead, so I don't tend to sign up and create my own RPG group. There's always someone there who's doing it, and they are therefore the sort of predefined leader, or they'll have a leader, or they'll have a target caller. And the same applies for pugging stuff with OQ, which is anything else, like heroic scenarios or anything along those lines. And I think that's a really good aspect of it. And maybe they could incorporate something which is kind of halfway between the current click a box and wait approach and something like OQ, where it is a little bit more, it's kind of a halfway house between pugging and trade and clicking a box and clicking a button. But I don't know, I can't see them doing it just because of this notion they have that, oh, pugs can't do hard content, not for pug. Pug's stupid. It's like, no, pug good. Pug just needs to need you to believe in it. Pug good.
I would agree with you that you know, pug content does seem to be a little undervalued as far as what they can accomplish. We understand that, you know, if we're putting together like total random strangers, that it's going to be kind of a nightmare. I mean, LFR is always kind of like, well, who's really leading this? Well, what's going on? You know, like the first week that anything's released, everybody's like, what do we do? You know, freaking out and everything. And so we understand that, you know, if it's totally random strangers that aren't communicating well together, that aren't talking to each other on Mumble or Vent or whatever, that it can be a real nightmare. But the lovely thing about Open Raid and OQ is that we're putting people into a situation where they're using these different tools. They're using Mumble, they're using Vent, and they're being able to conquer content that is much harder than what Blizzard, you know, LF whatever,
but I think
is doing.
That's because, and Josh brings up this point, which is a really good argument. That's because it's not something that's offered in the game, and it weeds out the people that don't want to take the effort to learn their class, to pay attention, to go raid. They have to go out and do something extra. So the people that are using it, 90% are the people that really want to take a pug seriously. So you're probably getting better experiences because of that. And if it gets integrated, you'll probably run into more issues.
That's probably true. Yeah, and again, you know, we'll see what ends up happening with Connected Realms, and with flex rating, and with everything else that's coming with 5.4. We'll see exactly what happens if for whatever reason Blizzard doesn't see an improvement in community-based events. We'll just call them that. You know, rating. Or PvP or whatever, then maybe they'll come up with their own solution where it'll be a little bit, you know, better than what Open Raid or OQ is doing at the moment.
Yarb23 just reminded me, that feature already existed. There was the looking for raid tool a long time ago where you would basically say, I'm going to do this raid, and people could open up a UI and see, oh, hey, look, someone on my server wants to go do that raid. I'll join their group.
I remember that being really well used too. That was used by an incredible number of people.
Like three?
Three. Yeah.
Yeah.
We used that. Three.
Exactly. That's my point. That's what
it was terribly designed. It was only your server. And that's why nobody used it, because this opens up a whole list. This is for the person who gets home at 5 a.m. and wants to do a heroic scenario. This is for people like me who work stupid hours and want to do RPGs.
And plus now we have
how the person uses it is somewhat dependent on the tool, but Open Raid and OQ aren't sanctified because it's the holy grail of how that's supposed to be together.
No,
Blizzard. No, it's the cross-realm aspect of it. What makes the difference?
Could have been just as easily used.
Right, and there's a couple of
important.
things that's changed. One thing is the cross realm thing, definitely, but they also have so much more content for groups. I mean, they have scenarios, they have rating, they have PvP. I mean, they've got all of this stuff, and they've got more coming for 5.4. So it's going to be pretty cool to see exactly what happens, especially with the community aspect of these group events like flex rating and so on, and connected realms. So.
All right, next up, this one in from Eric Contreras.
Hello. I have a comment and a couple questions for this week's show. I like to say I agree with Coltrane on his position on heirlooms. In the past, heirlooms have been purchased with justice and honor, and anyone could get them. And I think raiders have enough incentive to raid. When you get access to different pets, you could get mounts, titles, achievements. There's some pattern drops. There's epic trash loots. There's already the more powerful tier sets. So I don't think heirlooms is what's going to finally push people to try raiding. I think if anything, at least let out LFR have access to the heirlooms, maybe a lower drop rate, but at least have the chance for them. And my first question would be if your character could have any ability from any other class, like what would you like to get and why? For example, I play a hunter, and I think having a monk's roll ability would be pretty cool. You know, you're hunting things down, rolling after them, you have your gun out. So what would you guys choose? And two, I know no one's happy with those $15 helms, but what would make that $15 worth it for you? What if they came with the Dark Moon buff pretty much all the time, where you get the XP and the rep? I mean, would you feel that's worth it? Or what if Blizzard made, a hat for your character, and instead of a helm, it was pretty much like a wig that looks like Laura's hair? What do you guys think? Thank you. Love the show.
That was awesome. Oh, that was good. All right.
So I'll take this because I liked each one of his points. Even to your first point of flexing, you were just kind of barking back to us about our response. You kind of made me reconsider. I don't think that they should. I still don't think they should be in LFR. But if they were, maybe give them one drop for their spec, low chance, but in the higher tiers, you have a chance to get all different kinds. After you get your first one, you have a chance to get different kinds for different specs, and you can keep getting them as long as you're running LFR. Maybe I could justify there being one heirloom for your character, low drop rate for the spec that you're getting. I could accept that. Two, you're part of the problem. You're asking us what abilities we want from other classes. We just talked about that's bad and chopping that out. Three, $15 hats. They need to not just be hats. They need to be skins. Like, they need to be full sets. That would be worth $15, not just a helmet.
Cool transmogs, man. That would be worth, well, maybe not $15, but because I can't do it. I can't push the little button that says buy this. I can't do it. Sorry, Blizz. It would have to be something else, and I think transmog is really the only way to do it. Full transmog gear would be great. Abilities, symbiosis for every character.
God! Could you imagine?
You guys already get it.
Awesome.
You guys already get it. I just have to link it to you, and then you get it.
No, I want it for my shaman. I want it for my hunter. I want everything. I just want all the symbiosisizing. That's all I want.
You just want to have. Do you understand how hard that is? Oh my God, no. That's the worst idea.
But you have to look at tables, and you have to look at see what the thing is, and then you go. Okay.
Can you imagine what the table would look like if every single class of the game had symbiosis? It would need the whole of this room. Like, just be like, wait.
Here's the way it's gonna go. Here's the way it's gonna go. I'm going to symbiosisize Mike. Mike is going to symbiosisize Liv, and Liv
exactly.
is going to symbiosisize Gary, even though he's probably going to die in the first minute anyway. So it's fine.
It's such a bad idea from a programming standpoint, but it is a really good. Like, I didn't think about that. Like, I don't really have that kind of envy because I do have the ability. Granted, it's only select abilities, but in a raid, I drop into a raid. I've got one button on a bar that I can decide. All right, I get the best ability from you. I don't wish that on anyone, and that was our ability is that Druids got for hitting level, I think, 90. So get out of here. That's my ability. But I do think that if it was to ever come to that point, the idea of giving that style of ability to someone is a great way to allow that to happen.
Right. Liv, what do you say?
I say that is a terrible idea. It's too complicated. It's complex enough as it is. It's just no. It's like it's way too complicated. It's way too symbiosis is so tricky to balance. It's oh my god, no giving symbiosis to other people. That's a terrible idea. And what would I take? What would I take from another class? I just like movement things. I'd probably take either charge or disengage. I just like being able to sort of go places at speed. That's my thing. I like jumping. And what could they do to the 15 hats to make them worth the money? Nothing. Ever.
So mad.
So mad. All right, last up this week from Core Gaming. This is actually third question that's been featured here on the Legendary. So kudos to you. Here it is, Core Gaming.
Hey Gamebreaker Nation and host of Legendary. It's me again, Core Gaming here with another simple question for you guys. With 5.4 coming out in about 2, 3, whatever weeks, I would like to know which feature of 5.4 each of you are looking forward to the most. Up until I saw this freaking awesome trailer going on behind me, I was most looking forward to the Timeless Isle and the whole event system. But now I cannot wait to get in this raid. I wasn't too hyped up for it. Like it was a really cool concept, you know, with Siege of Orgrimmar fighting the boss of a city. That's pretty cool. But after seeing this trailer, I just can't wait. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for picking my question and keep up the good work.
Core knows what's up. He got chills.
Burn in the fires of my hatred.
All right, Mr. Pat Crane, what are you most excited about for in 5.4?
I am most excited for flex rating. I think it's going to be a real game changer for a lot of folk. Really.
Mike Shavit.
I think there's a lot of stuff to be excited about. Flex, obviously, the raid's exciting, but honestly, I think that the way that they're structuring Timeless Isles is something I've been hoping to harken back to for a very long time. And I like the way that it's playing out. So I still say the Timeless Isles.
Olivia D. Grace.
Timeless Isle for me as well. I really want to be excited about Cross-Realm Arenas, and I'm too busy playing the world's smallest violin for myself because I'm sad about the departure of teams. So yeah, Timeless Isle. I'm really enjoying the sort of the world PvP side of it, and just the general thing of it. It's been really good fun on the PTR, and I'm really looking forward to it going live. Let's stab everyone in the butt.
Stab everyone in the butt.
Stab everyone.
Wow.
In the butt. All right, everybody, we do the show live every Thursday at 8 PST, so come on over for the live show. Quick PSA for those of you out there who watch Legendary and our other World of Warcraft content on GameBreaker.tv. Maybe you watch it on YouTube. You may have missed it, but we actually have a new YouTube channel. It's WoW Nation TV. So go over to youtube.com/WoW Nation TV and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Do not miss an episode. You don't want to miss Legendary, or you do not want to miss the brand new episode of Waypoint World of Warcraft Edition with Mr. Mike Shaftnet going all about Ghostcrawler, explaining class changes and all that good stuff. Just went up about 2 days ago, so go over check that out. So you guys understand if you guys watch on the YouTubes, all the World of Warcraft content that we create here on GameBreaker.tv will of course still be going to GameBreaker.tv, but will be on WoW Nation TV, youtube.com/WoW Nation TV. So go sign up. Mr. Pat Crane, host of Convert to Raid. Follow him on the Twitters at Pat Crane and watch Legendary right here. So always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mike Shaftnet. Actually, I should say one more quick thing. We may have something to talk about soon.
Maybe. We may have something to talk about soon. Look out. Soon-ish. Yes. Soon-ish.
Mike Shaftnet. Follow him on the Twitter at Mike Shaftnet. And, of course, watch Waypoint, the World of Warcraft edition. There's also a League of Legends edition for you peeps who are League of Legends fans. You do not want to miss it, especially this week's League episode is awesome. And Olivia D. Grace. Follow her on the Twitter at Olivia D. Grace. And, of course, go over to Zam.com and watch her amazing content over there as well. and WoW Insider, of course. You can follow me at Garrett again, follow Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker TV, and I don't know, we're going to do a community cast if you guys want to keep up on the Gamebreaker Nation stuff and all that good stuff. We're going to be launching a community cast to keep you up on Gamebreaker stuff, so keep an eye out for that. Have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday for some more Legendary action. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. You guys rock!